I'm Ralph Sheheen. Welcome to our GEICO 15-minute Moto Show. And today I've got a guest that I really was looking forward to introducing everybody to. It's my good friend, Chris Agajanian. Chris, how are you today?
I'm doing well, Ralph. How are you doing?
We're doing great. Listen, your family, the Agajanian family, under the leadership of your father, AC Agajanian, is legendary in the promotion business, especially in California, where I grew up. The legendary Ascot racetrack was your family's playground. Your dad ran it. Your brothers all worked there, JC, Kerry, and yourself. What did you do there first?
Oh, what I did there first was sold programs. I was 7 years old. I was selling programs at Ascot, and I worked there all my life. You know, we all did. We all worked all of the different positions. We sold at parking lots, took care of the concessions, and did all other stuff. But you know, once my dad got older, and you know, it was like when we were never able to buy the property there, Ralph. You know, unfortunately, we leased the property, and the old lady wouldn't let us buy it. We owned the business, so in the track, so we were able to do that, fortunately. But had we owned the property, that place would still be running it. You know, we were doing something like around 60,000 people a month at that place. It was phenomenal. There were guys like Parnelli Jones and AJ Foyt, Mario Andretti, and you know, even Jeff Gordon, and that would race the big USAC national championship midget races, and then the motorcycle races, AMA Grand National Championship races that my dad brought to town. And Sammy Tanner, number 59, the Flying Flea, he won the 1959, the first race at National Championship motorcycle race at Ascot, all the way through to Ronnie Jones, who won the very last one in 1990. And I'll tell you one thing, I was at every one of those races.
Yeah, you know, there were so many different genres of racing that took place at Ascot. Obviously, midgets and sprint cars have a long history there. Motocross does, as well as flat track. What do you think, as you look at those different genres of racing, which one is maybe the most legendary at Ascot?
Boy, that's hard to say, because, you know, when you have these national and world champions like Kenny Roberts, you know, that would race there for motorcycles, and Mario Andretti. I mean, they're both world championship in 4 wheels and 2 wheels. And you know, we had the figure eights there. We had the demolition derby there. We had a whole lot of them, but you know, my heart was closest to the 2-wheel guys, and flat track was the greatest, and even the sprint car guys know. But you know, a World of Outlaws came there when nobody even knew. They didn't have rules. It was outlaws. You run what you brung, and we were all wondering, what the heck is this stuff going on here too at that time. So it was amazing. Sprint cars were so popular, 10,000 people every week, and the motorcycle guys. Actually, the motorcycle races in the end pulled down the very biggest crowds. I know they drank the most beer, the fans.
Yeah, that I'm sure they did. You ended up going from selling programs to becoming a promoter yourself. In fact, AMA Flat Track was something you promoted quite a bit of, not just at Ascot, but at a variety of places, including Sacramento, where I grew up as a kid, and even announced for you. What was it about promoting that became a passion for you?
I don't know. I mean, my older brother, Kerry, you know, he's an attorney, and he represented so many of the big national drivers like Kyle Busch and Jeff Gordon and Tony Stewart and those guys, Denny Hamlin. He had 25 guys in his stall, and he was a very powerful guy. My brother Jay was into the advertising business and all that. But somehow I just kind of followed my dad's. I liked promoting. And I remember he gave me an opportunity. It's kind of funny. You know, this guy, Stu Peters, who owns CMC, and he would promote the motocross races there. And they were doing it for some time. And it finally just kind of lost favor, and the motorcycle count dropped, you know, from 100 riders down to 50, down to 35. And I remember I was at my dad's office in Gardena, and Stu came in there and said, "Well, Aggie, we're gonna have to give it up. You know, the motocross, we're not going to be able to put this thing together for this season." And And I thought, oh, that's too bad. And my dad goes, yeah, okay, that's what I thought. It looked pretty dismal. You know, we've been losing money on it. So next thing I know, my dad calls me up and says, Chris, come on down to the office. I want to talk to you. Okay. And I go down there. I'm all excited. He goes, you know, I want you to be able to put on a race. I want you to promote your own race. I thought, oh, this will be good. Maybe a Saturday night would be good or something, you know. Even Sundays are good. He goes, I want you to do Wednesday night motocross. I went, oh, Dad, it just went bankrupt. It just went belly up.
Yeah.
But that was him teaching me, and it was funny because, you know, I was a kid. I knew exactly what the motocross kids wanted, and you know, this kid Donnie Emler, we were roommates almost, you know, in Manhattan Beach, so we had a lot of fun together, and then so I ended up putting on the motocross races and really changed it around, and we ended up. We opened up with 236 motorcycle races.
Wow.
The line went around the block, and all these riders were there, and it became very, very popular. So, you know, I caught the bug.
Of course, that's Donnie Emler of FMF fame that you're talking about there. There is another name, and his helmet sits right behind your shoulder as we're looking in your office there. A motorcycle rider who is connected to Ascot. Of course, when you think of Evel Knievel, you think of Wembley Stadium, you think of Caesar's Palace, but Ascot was one of the first places where he really came to prominence. Do you remember how that all got started?
Oh, of course, Ralph. I mean, you don't forget that kind of stuff. And you know, Evel, you know, originally Evel had come to my dad. Evel actually raced some of the TT races at Ascot, and you know, he'd finish in the middle of the pack or whatever. But he was very, very impressed with all the other riders, you know, the big, you know, Skip Van Leeuwen's and all those guys, you know. So he always wanted to do that, but he knew that he couldn't make a living doing that. So he came up with this daredevil stunt where he'd jump over cars. So he showed up at my dad's office and said, Mr. Agajanian, my name is Evel Knievel, and I'm going to be able to make you some more money. And my dad goes, for one thing, I don't need any more money. And another thing, what's your real name? Oh, it's Robert. Okay, Bob, what do you want? And he said, so what I wanted to do is I wanted to jump during your big wide world of sports national television. So, you know, Evel, boy, he's a promoter, right? So he wants to get on national wide world of sports. So he said, look, if you don't have to pay me except for $2 for every person that shows up more than last year. So my dad said, okay. And Evel came down, and I was there at the track, and I was helping him set up his ramps for practice. And he's practicing once, and you know, right before the event, a couple of days before the event, my dad comes pulling into the track in the back, through the back, and you know, a big white Cadillac convertible, you know, he's got his hat on, honks his horn. I ride over there. Yeah, Daddy goes, what's he doing over there? I said, well, he's doing some practice jumps. He has to do practice jumps. He goes, you tell him to get off that motorcycle right now. We got a big show. He's going to break his leg. You go over there. I race over. Evel, you got to get off that motorcycle. My dad's going to kill you. He goes, oh, okay. And he laughed and all that. And I was wondering, you know, how is he going to go and entertain a national audience? 15-minute intermission, it takes 20 seconds to go jump over these cars, you know. And of course, we didn't have a bunch. We put our own cars. My car was in there. We put everybody's cars that was around. We put those cars in there and just had those cars, you know, whatever cars were available, you know. But so he'd get out there, and boy, he did these speed wheelies that were very impressive. The place was packed. And he'd aim right for the ramp, and then he'd just miss it, for, you know, and they'd go, I'm going, God, this guy is a showman. Then he'd start aiming, and you go, okay, this is it. And he starts going towards the jump, and he hits his kill switch on his bike. And it's like, oh, God, Evel, what do you know, and everybody's all excited, and okay, looks like he's going to do it. And he goes and races up to the jump and just skids to a stop and asks for the microphone. Then he addresses the crowd, and he tells all the kids in the crowd, you listen to your parents. You're growing up in the greatest country in the world. You know, don't ever take drugs, and don't do this, and you listen. And he just said all these great things and all the wonderful things. And then he goes, now I'm going to go risk my life for you on this Triumph motorcycle. And all the guys back at Triumph in England, they heard that. They're going, who is this guy? You know?
Yeah.
So it was really something, and it was a great jump. It was classic. He did it a number of times, and we became very close friends, and he was very close with my father. But, you know, afterwards, so my Dad goes and says, "Hey, Kerry," goes down to my brother Kerry, who was running the box office at the time. He said, "How was the crowd?" He goes, "Well, Dad, we were up 1,000 people." And he goes, "Okay, well, put $3,000 in an envelope and give it to Evel." So he does, and then the next day, Evel comes over to my dad's office, knocks on the door, and the girl goes, "Well, I got to see Mr. Agajanian." And my dad goes, "Well, what's he want? I'll just send him in." So yeah, Evel. Evel walks in. He goes, "Mr. Agajanian, yeah, something's wrong with this pay." And he throws the envelope down. And my dad goes, "Oh, there it goes, doing the guy a favor. There he goes." He goes, "What's wrong with it, Evel?" And he goes, "You paid me too much money." And my dad goes, "Oh, I did. How do you know that?" He goes, "I had a guy with clickers on each gate. I know exactly how many people came in there. You paid me $1,000 too much." And he gave my dad this beautiful gold nugget and a charm on it. Says, "Aggie, your word is as good as gold." They were very, very close friends, and he loved my dad. He felt like my dad elevated him, gave him more class, more, whatever, just kind of put him in the right place. So
I mean, as a kid in the 70s, Evel Knievel was right up there with Muhammad Ali as the biggest sports figures in the world. Did you realize what you were seeing at the time?
no, I mean, there's no way that you would understand that. I mean, obviously now and later on, I mean, you go to people about racing and you say, Parnelli Jones or AJ Foyt, or no, even Lewis Hamilton. No, I don't have a clue. Yeah, have you ever heard of Evel Knievel? Well, of course. I mean, he's a household name, and he just and you're exactly right. The Cassius Clays or Muhammad Ali's of the world, and he was like Babe Ruth. When Babe Ruth came in, he tipped the guy $100. He knew. Everybody knew who Babe Ruth was. Well, Evel would come to Ascot and he'd tell me, "Chrissy, get in the car." "I can't, Evel. I got to get this stuff done. I've got a race tonight." "Get in the car." I can't. My dad will kill me." "Get in the car." And we'd take me up to Hollywood. We'd go up to Hollywood and, of course, go to the Rainbow Club or Filthy McNasty's, one of those places. And, within 5 minutes, everyone in the place knew Evel Knievel was in the house. There'd be a glass thrown across the room or bars. He'd go choose off some big guy and start talking to his girlfriend. Just a rough kind of guy. But then pretty soon he'd make friends with them. He's telling them jokes. They got their arms around him and they're drinking all night, So yeah, he was a tough guy. He wouldn't complain though, Ralph. I mean, he'd limp. "Evel, you okay?" "Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine." "Yeah, but your leg is..." "No, my leg's fine." He says he broke every bone in his body more than twice, and I don't doubt it. Like, he hit the ground a number of times, and it was a tough thing, that he went through. But I'll tell you one thing, he had that cane and he'd unscrew that diamond, he had a gold motorcycle on top with diamond wheels. He'd unscrew it and he had little flasks in there full of wild turkey. He'd take it, he said, he'd do that while he was in the back. It relaxes me. Yeah.
Was there ever a jump that he and your dad talked about that never happened?
Well, I just know one time, 4:00 in the morning, he called my dad and, it's 4 in the morning. He wakes my dad up and he says, "Aggie, I got a new jump. I'm going to do a new jump." And he goes, "Evel, it's 4:00 in the morning. Can't you call me at a decent hour? I don't care about your new jump." "No, you got to hear this. I'm going to jump out of a plane onto a haystack." And my dad goes, "Well, hurry up and jump." And he hangs up on him. Yeah, they were very close, and he really liked my dad, and my dad liked him a lot too.
Yeah. Well, Chris, you've kept the Ascot name alive. If people are interested in finding out more about the merchandise you have branded with Ascot, how do they go about learning more about it?
Well, we've got a website called ascotmotorsports.com, and there's a lot of stuff on there. There's some nice shirts and sweatshirts and jackets and hats and all that. We do real well with it, and thank you for mentioning that, Ralph.
All right, buddy. Listen, old friend, I love you. Thanks for coming on and being a part of the show. It's great hearing these old stories, seeing the Evel helmet behind you and your dad's hat in the other corner over there. It's perfect. Chris Agajanian, everybody. And don't forget, every Monday right here on Speed Sport, we have a brand new episode of our GEICO 15-minute Moto Show for you. We'll see you next week. Thanks for tuning in.